Watch out. Another side job Saturday working on junk, but this time it's my own junk. Guys, welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. This is what I believe to be my trusty Ditchwitch. I put a lot of work into this machine. I used it for a job, it worked great, and then I let it sit for 6 or 8 months, and now it doesn't steer. So let's see what's going on with that. Thing runs awesome. So we're gonna engage the hydraulic pump. Right, that's spinning the pump. I have boom function up and down. No problem. I've got hydraulic power front and back. No problem. But when I go to steer it, we have no steering, and it just squeals the relief valve. So let's do a little troubleshooting and see what happened to this thing. It worked when I parked it. So you can see there's a hydraulic cylinder here on top of the wheels. That steers the left side wheel, then I believe there's a tie rod that goes across to the right side wheel. Up here is the location of the hydraulic pump. This is kind of a smart pump. It's a swash plate style pump for driving the wheels, just like a zero turn or a skid steer. But it also has like an auxiliary circuit on it, which is a fixed displacement, I would assume, and that runs to this valve body here with your linkages for boom up, down, and then your steering left and right. So let's get a little deeper into that. So to dumb this down a little, here's the reservoir here. The pump draws fluid from the reservoir. The pump charges it. We've got a 150 PSI relief valve, which is very low for a hydraulic system, but I think Ditchwitch, well, I got my theories on that. Anyway, comes up out of the 150 PSI relief valve, up and over to the valve block here, which is this valve block here. The lever on the left being the boom up and down control, the valve on the right being the valve, or the steer left and right control. So we know that the boom lift is working. And for that to be working, that means that this entire circuit here must have at least some pressure. Now with 150 PSI relief, it ain't gonna be a whole bunch, but it should be enough. So what I wanna do is start this up, put the boom down, make sure it can still lift the front of the vehicle. That way we'll know, yeah, we've got enough pressure, at least enough pressure to make this thing steer. It shouldn't take much to steer this, especially with the size of that cylinder. The intent of that exercise was to prove that we've got good pressure and flow on this circuit here, right? Because the boom lift is south of the steering valve, so we know that, you know, in order for the boom lift to get fluid, it's coming through the steering valve. So there's an issue between the steering valve and the steering cylinder, most likely. Or if you want it to be very thorough, you could put a gauge on the pump, make sure that this relief valve is making that 150 PSI, yada, yada, yada. But that's really not the intent here. This is just a quick and dirty, why doesn't this work? Let's troubleshoot it, let's get it back working again. I think my next step is to take the lines off of the steering cylinder. And my reason for that is I know the valve moves. I can watch the spool move with the lever. So I'm pretty confident that it's taking this fluid and sending it one way or the other. And if you're not familiar with these diagrams here, basically take this block, shift it this way, see where the lines connect. Take this block, shift it this way, see how the lines connect. But what I am a little concerned about is these double pilot operated check valves here. And the intent of these pilot checks is where if you're not operating the cylinder, it stays locked in its position, right? This thing is literally check valved off on both sides. So pulling the lines is going to allow me to, one, swing the tires by hand, make sure there's nothing mechanically bound up, make sure the cylinder isn't seized up, and two, it should prove whether these checks are opening or not. It's possible because this thing's been sitting, maybe there was moisture in there and these check valves are stuck. I think it's very unlikely that both check valves would stick, but anything is possible. damn it, right in the oil. So something I'm realizing is this fitting is not screwing off by hand nicely whatsoever. Almost like it's got pressure on it still, and we've got fluid like actively dripping out. I'm wondering if residual pressure got built up in the cylinder from sitting in the winter, and maybe ice was in there, maybe water was in there and it froze or something. And maybe that residual pressure was backseating these pilot operated check valves at a pressure greater than what the pump provides, which is that 150. It's gonna be interesting if I start this up right now with that line loose and it starts steering. It's gonna make a mess, but we should try it. Look at that. It's turning. I think that was all it was. Let me tighten this line up. Yeah, look at that. Now the fitting turns by hand. What the heck? That is very strange. Look at that. Yeah, now it turns so easy. Let's see if it was really that easy. All right, so that was the problem. Now what's the fix? I don't know yet. These are pilot operated check valves. So when you provide pressure, so the way this hydraulic cylinder works, you're either going to send pressure and flow to one side of it or the other. So if you were to provide pressure to this side, this hydraulic channel is coming through here. It's going to go to this cylinder like that. But also some of that pressure is going to split off through this X here and open this check valve, because this check valve would not let fluid return from the cylinder, therefore letting it move without that happening. Same thing vice versa here. So these are basically like, they're just valves that lock the cylinder in position when the cylinder is not being commanded in any other direction. I don't see this on a lot of equipment, so this is kind of interesting. But yeah, that's what happened. Somehow pressure got built up down here. I don't know why. I don't really care why. I don't use this machine all that often. I'm probably going to use it a couple more times and it goes up for sale. What's the easiest way to overcome it if it happens on your Ditchwitch? Just simply loosen a line. Let a couple drips of fluid out. Once that pressure drops below the threshold of the relief valve in the pump, the pilot will then be able to open the check valves and everything's good. There's no reason this couldn't happen to the boom lift cylinder as well. It's the same exact circuitry, probably uses some of the same checks built into the same valve block. So that could happen too. It's interesting that it didn't happen on the boom lift cylinder, but it did happen on the steering cylinder. First time seeing it, but there's a first time for everything. Anyway, it's not often things get fixed this quick around here, so I gotta go do the job I was intending to do with this machine now. Thanks for watching Spank Ranch Garage. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time.